Hello.
Hello.
Wendy, Caitlin. The other stream went really long.
How long was the last one?
An hour.
Really?
And we started a half hour late.
We talked for an hour?
We talked for an hour. Or maybe 40 minutes, something like that. So we got a good episode. Jackie was great, and I was happy to
Let's just have that be our episode for this.
Yeah, we'll upload it. There you go. All right, bye-bye.
All right.
Well, a bunch of technical errors, and also the reviews from Danny and Jimmy might sound weird. But hey, gang, we figured out how to put the video in live. Did y'all see that? Did it work?
Did you see it?
I hope the sound came through because
it?
the level said that it was, and the video said it was, but that doesn't mean it actually happened.
Yep. What a fun bit. All right, ready to start this?
My throat feels like shit. Yeah, let's do it.
3, 2.
Hello and welcome to Only Stupid Answers. Thank you for contributing your time and your money if you're part of patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. Again, this is Only Stupid Answers, a series of a podcast where Sam Basher and DJ Wooldridge collaborate and come together to talk about movies, TV shows, comic books, video games, and more. DJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you doing?
Coming in smooth.
You're smooth and silky today.
As butter.
Coming in with the smooth and silky.
You know what I've always wanted to do?
What?
Be buttered up and thrown down a water slide. Wouldn't that be cool?
Are you serious?
Yeah, one with a jump. That goes into a pool.
Same.
Butter me up.
Sam, based off conversations we've had before, that buttering up process, what do you think that would do to your pores?
Butter it up. My pores would be buttered up inside out.
I mean, I get what you're saying. Are you not like lubed up, but butter?
Keep the aloe vera scrub and the moisturizer ready. All right, boys and girls. There's got to be someone out there that just rubs butter into their pores. They're like, it works. My grandma did it.
Hey, listen, we know somebody that's putting butter on their face for Patreon and stuff like that. So.
Very true.
Yeah.
Amen. But I don't know what that does long term.
Keep those checks coming in. You know what I mean? As Sam mentioned, you can support us, or if you want more content from us, you can go to patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. You can also check out youtube.com/onlystupidanswers or youtube.com/mightbeawesome, where you can check out our movie reviews. But we like to start off every episode talking about what we're into this week.
The big thing for both of us is X-Men.
X-Men,
specifically,
because they're
going where you grew up.
Yeah, they're going through a big, massive relaunch. So we're going to dive into X-Men. And also, we'll probably circle back around to the fact that they're going to be in the movie soon. I don't know for sure, but I feel like I can make a safe bet that might come up.
There you go.
So we're going to be talking about X-Men. But Sam, do you have anything un-X-Men related?
Well, this week,
yes,
I read Absolute Carnage. It's the big Donny Cates event for the summer. Cletus Cassidy, a.k.a. Carnage, is talking with like this Venom God thing. Oh, sweet Christ, it is crazy. It is. They are trying to tie up all the crazy symbiote stuff that's happened over the long time.
Yeah.
And I think they're just trying to let's make this easier to understand what's happening right now. And
by introducing the demon space guy.
Basically, now, since everyone was disconnected now it's all connected up to one thing. And now there's either Venom or Spider-Man, and then Carnage and everybody else. So basically, it's like, that's it. And then they're like, okay, so everyone here is dead, and these are the people that are alive, and we're going to figure it out from there. We'll make it easy to
When you say them, you're talking about the other symbiotes?
More complicated.
Oh, okay,
You'll anyone who's worn one, who's ever been bonded to one,
is dead.
No. They'll clear it up, and so you understand who's on what on the side of the Angels or not. And in this, it's Ryan Stegman, and
he's great,
amazing artist. Donny Cates, the writer, and I've never seen him draw Spider-Man, Peter Parker before. Big fan. You see him and Venom team up a lot, and also just like the layout of the entire book is beautiful.
Cool.
And I'll say you get like a prison break scene, which is crazy. Carnage is a goddamn nightmare. But besides being a serial killer that has like its own symbiote, this one is like, what if a serial killer died and came back but was still using the corpse that died a long time ago, and it's like a symbiote, so you're like, yuck. That's
maybe
gross.
I should give it a look-see, because I remember growing up, Maximum Carnage was a big thing around when I was coming up reading comics. Yeah.
No, did you ever pick up any of Donny Cates' Venom?
I did. I wasn't a huge fan of the whole null stuff and all that kind of a thing.
So far, what they're pitching in this is that Carnage, it needs to basically extract this little. Anytime anyone paired with a symbiote, they a little bit stayed behind. That's why they're able to keep track of where they've been and who is who. So they leave a little bit. If Carnage goes and gets that and gets enough of it, he can talk to Null, but he can't do it. So that's not part of the story. It's just Venom and Spider-Man playing keep away and trying to protect people so that Carnage cannot get to him. So it's just those two working against Carnage and him being able to turn whoever he wants into someone that works for him. And it's scary.
That's
also,
cool.
his design is basically like a skeleton.
And it's also crazy to me. This occurred to me because there's been a lot of ads for it and a lot of push for it. That there's a big, massive Marvel event built around Venom. Like that's crazy because it's not. I guess Maximum Carnage did pull in other superheroes did join Spider-Man, but the only big one outside of like the Spider-Man line was Captain America. So it wasn't like it was a Spider-Man event. It wasn't like a line-wide.
They did
Marvel
Venomize
event.
Last year. Which
Yeah,
was
but that's not the
good.
same.
Yeah,
That's not the same as wow, I just blanked on literally every Marvel event ever. It's like a Secret Wars or a Secret Invasion or like one of those events. That's like just one of those like it's when they did like Web of the Spider-Verse or whatever. You know what I mean? It's not everybody, but this is kind of like an all hands on deck Marvel event. Like Original Sin. That's the one I was trying to think of. Or what was the one War of the Realms. This is of that caliber, right? Mm-hmm. That's crazy to me.
I also worth checking out.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it.
If they still got copies at my shop when I go in, I'll see if I can pick up an issue next week.
And Daredevil is amazing. Really like what Chip Zdarsky's doing with that book. I've been just like lightly, not like heavily rereading Giant Days. Like not from the beginning, just kind of picking up. Like I started rereading it like a year ago, then I stopped.
Yeah.
And then I'm like kind of picking it up like once a week I might read a little bit of an issue, and it's a nice one. But this week there's a lot of good comics. The only other one besides Immortal Hulk, that one's just always going to be so goddamn good. But the one I wanted to mention, did I just lose it? Did
you just delete it?
Did I just lose it? Cosmic, excuse me. DJ, don't do that. It's Cosmic Ghost Rider.
There's no way to know.
It's like when you blame the dog.
Yeah.
It's Cosmic Ghost Rider. It's the end of this. It's at the end of the run. Yeah. Cosmic Ghost Rider changes Marvel history or rewrites Marvel's
Destroys
history.
Marvel history.
That's what it is. Yeah. And Paul Scheer, a comedy legend, host of How Did This Get Made?
Yeah.
You've seen him. You have seen him before.
Yeah.
Was the
you
writer.
know this man.
And the way that they button up the series where it's like they perfectly make it that this could have happened, but when you find out the point of view of this entire story, you're like, oh, this is a lie. Because you were alive, you probably didn't do any of this.
Yeah.
I like the end of it where it's like, no. This is your drunk uncle telling you about, like, did you know that I went to school with Elvis Presley? And he was like, do you know I was the one that told him to do the dance move? That's what the gist of the story is.
That's great.
And so by the end of it, it's him telling Beta Ray Bill right before Guardians 1. And
nice.
they're in a bar together like that. I was there for Original Sin. You weren't there. He's like, you weren't there. I was there. And he's like a little drunk. I'm like, all this is such a nice way to kind of wipe away any negative things that could have happened from the story. It made it very fun. I really liked all of it. His Spider-Man issue is the best one, 100%. Where like Venom and Spider-Man are like naked and like on a beach, like fighting each other, like because like their suits got ripped or whatever, and they're like, "I'm gonna fucking pound you into the ground." And in the background, you just see Cosmic Ghost Rider in a boat, like listening. You're like, "Do you even hear yourselves right now?
Yeah.
I'm gonna ream you, dude."
That's great.
And it's so funny because everything is just tangential. It's always like, well, I actually introduced this. It's like, no, you didn't. You didn't do that. Like they just did that. Anyways,
no way.
It's really good.
For me, for what I'm into this week is I started checking out. There's a podcast called Pure Cinema that is run by the people that do the New Beverly, which is the theater that Quentin Tarantino runs. And apparently, from what I understand, this podcast is they run through the movies they're going to be showing each month or how many times they do this podcast of the programming schedule and what the movies are and what they mean to people and why they're showing them. But, and the person that does the programming is Quentin Tarantino. And so this time he's actually on the episode of the podcast. So it's a 3-hour episode. So I haven't gotten through all of it yet because the programming he did was in lead up to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, stuff that like fleshes out the type of movies that influenced it. So like in the movie, they mentioned the 14 Fists of McCluskey. They show the movie that kind of is loosely an inspiration for that World War II Guys on a Mission movie, showing movies of other TV stars that kind of sort of had a movie career, like Leonardo DiCaprio's character in the movie, stuff like that. And it's really fascinating. And it's one of those where you're listening to it. It's interesting to listen to Quentin Tarantino talk.
Period. Because he's got an interesting voice.
Yeah, 100%. But also for a long period of time, because it's like, oh, you're just a movie nerd. Like, you're just 100% just a movie nerd. But it's one of those, like, you go in and you're like, I feel like I'm reasonably knowledgeable about movies. I feel like I'm passionate about movies. And then you listen to this, you're like, oh, I don't know anything. And two, clearly I don't love movies as much as I think I do, because they're the level.
This person exists.
Yeah. Because not just, Tarantino, but the people that host the podcast that like run the New Beverly, like they're talking about these movies is like, oh, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a big old idiot. You know what I mean? Like every once in a while they'll throw out a Roger Corman, like, oh, I know who that is. I know Roger Corman.
He helped Steven Spielberg make Jurassic Park. Don't think I know it.
That Roger Corman. And it's just interesting. It's just really fascinating to listen to people that Tarantino in particular, who's able to just rattle off like names and information and facts and backstories, and it's like, for the love of God, where's all the stored? Like, seriously.
By the way, I found out that like classic movie trope of like say the past 20 years, Wilhelm scream. It's inserting that into movies, TV shows, commercials.
I will say, I think the funniest use of it in a while was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because because of the meta nature of how it's used in that movie.
When was that used?
It's roughly I think it's in a shot from Bounty Law when and this is an aspect I love about it, is he recreates the type of shows, but then because this isn't meant to be a historically accurate anything, he heightens it, because it's like the guy gets shot and it's like, oh, he's going to fall off the roof, but he falls through another roof, and then that's when the Wilhelm scream happens. It's pretty funny.
I found out that may have been introduced by Quentin Tarantino.
Really?
He did not create it, but it was, and I listened to a podcast called Every Little Thing. I've recommended it before.
Yeah.
They didn't, like a deep dive. They're like, what is it? Like, what's that? What's the original one? And I think it's from if I remember correctly, it was a jungle adventure movie where someone gets attacked by an alligator and he makes that sound, but the sound was just some ADR they did to have some yells to put into a scene. So when they did the scene, they added it in there, and they think they found the scream that happened, and they also that is now the Wilhelm scream. And since Quentin Tarantino is such a movie buff, he remembered that specific sound. I think it was an alligator or someone on a horse that got dragged. It was like something got attacked by an animal, and they made that noise. And so, and then he took that and he started inserting it into movies. And because movie fans became a fan of Quentin Tarantino, and then started making movies that got kind of dispersed out. And it was something fun that they just put in, but also it could have been used before that on a more regular basis. But that is when people started recognizing it more.
That's interesting. That's fascinating. It's crazy because like you talk about it being a movie fan, but it's beyond that. Like it's I saw an interview with him. I didn't even watch the full interview. I was just scrolling, and I scrolled past it with Leonardo DiCaprio and Quentin Tarantino. And somebody asked Leonardo DiCaprio questions like, I don't know, he's the one with the photographic memory. And I couldn't tell whether it was a joke or not, but it might not be. With the level of detail he's able to recount and pull out information. Like, I'm even trying to remember specific things that are mentioned from this podcast I literally just listened to, and I can't remember, like, other than, like, if you want a detailed description of, like, what Tab Hunter was up to or who that guy even is, you know what I mean? But I know Tarantino's talked about, obviously he's been very vocal about we're retiring after 10 movies, which that number's fudged a little bit because technically he's already kind of done 10, but whatever. And he's like, yeah, maybe I'll write, film history books or stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you should, like 100%, because it's fascinating.
Teach a class, could you imagine?
Yeah, 100%, because it's listening to, and it's also interesting as somebody that admires filmmakers and would like to be a filmmaker and all that stuff. He talks like a normal person talks, like he stutters, he says, but then he early on, he describes his movie as if he were kind of like pitching it to somebody. And he clicks into that storyteller mode and is like, that's why you're successful. That ability to, like, because the way he lays out the information, you're like, yeah, I'd want to. If I were a producer, I'd want to make that movie.
Yeah.
Here's the money. You know what I mean?
At least
Like,
you meet with them.
yeah. Like, and so it's just if you like movies, or even if you think you like movies, because I thought I liked movies, but now I'm questioning everything. I would recommend Pure Cinema, the episode with Quentin Tarantino, and because it is kind of like a nice little archive of also real film geek stuff, talking about like everyone, because they play film, like actual film prints, and talking about like every once in a while there'll be a little aside at the New Beverly, they'll be like, how's the quality of the print? Oh, my print quality is the best. And it's like that, and it's like, I didn't even, this whole world, I didn't know, like they're trading like film prints with Joe Dante and shit, and it's like,
cool.
like this is some deep level rich movie nerd shit that I don't even.
It's next level.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like light example. You know when they have grades for comics when they're just trading,
Yeah.
you're like, I have literally no fucking idea what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
here.
the closest I get to is like, I don't put bags and boards in my comics because fuck that shit. The only time I'll do that is like Naomi #1. It's like that. I like this enough that earns a bag and board for me. You know what I mean? Just because I wanna keep it nice. That's as much of a collector as I am.
Yeah. Really quick, wanted to correct myself.
Yes.
I did look it up. I was right that it was from a jungle movie, 1950s. Someone being attacked by an alligator. It's Gary Cooper, I believe, and he got dragged under. First time it was used by sound designer Ben Burt, because it was in the Warner Library labeled as "Man Being Eaten by Alligator," and it was used in a shot with Luke Skywalker when a stormtrooper fell off a ledge.
Yeah.
And that was used. But then Tarantino is also part of that history of trying to circulate that more. So. To be fair, it was in a George Lucas film, and then Spielberg used it, Tarantino used it, so people started noticing it, and now it became a well-known Easter egg that people put into films. It's lost a little bit of its magic.
You got to find a creative way to like integrate it. Like I think Once Upon a Time when Hollywood did a good job of it, but otherwise it's just like, ugh.
The Ratchet and Clank movie had a good joke with it.
Nice.
I did not laugh a lot at that movie.
Yeah, but
the one joke, a guy accidentally tumbled out of a window and he made the Wilhelm scream happens, and his friend goes, "Wilhelm, no!" And it was like, who the fuck's that for?
Yeah.
I laughed, and I was like,
that's a very niche joke. But yeah, it's cool to like, I don't know, it's cool to learn a little bit about film history and about like where the culture around stuff, because they go into the like the granular detail of these actors of like that were leading men in the 50s or even the early 60s, and then there's a huge culture shift to where like the leading men had longer hair and they were skinnier and they were more effeminate and all this stuff. And so if you were one of those guys that was like tough guy, leading guy in an old cowboy show, like you're done, man, you're done. And even a specific story. And I appreciate, obviously, especially of people of my generation, Quentin Tarantino is ripped off director stylistically. Mm-hmm. But I think what makes anything stand out, it's a lesson they actually bring up in the Better Call Saul TV show, To Sell a Lie. It's all in the details, but that's true of any story, any narrative you're selling. So like hearing Tarantino go into the like all the backstory he had for it's Rick Dalton, right? Leonardo DiCaprio's character. And it's even mentioned in the movie how the role in 14 Fists of McCluskey was supposed to go to Fabian, but he hurt his shoulder on the thing. Apparently the Roger Corman war movie, that it was roughly tangential to what 14 Fists of McCluskey was supposed to represent. Tarantino didn't even know the same thing happened. They had a guy that was supposed to be the lead, but instead of hurting himself, they was shooting in like Czechoslovakia or something. He met a girl there and he just ran off. So they had to call the guy that ended up being the actual leading guy. They had to call him last minute and like, guess what? You're in the movie. Come out here. And so it's just little shit like that. It's just so interesting.
100%. Did you mention the reference? Timothy Oliphant's character, head of the guy who leads Lancer. That person he is portraying, the way he died, and there's a nod to it in the movie. So do you remember?
Oh, motorcycle? Is it? Because there's that one shot where they very specifically showed like he gets on a motorcycle. I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah, he died in a motorcycle.
Oh no!
And so
Thank God Timothy Oliphant's still with us.
And I think it's supposed to be a reference to like in this alt history.
Yeah, that
didn't happen.
Yeah.
But who knows? You know, like it didn't. Yeah. But that is a reference to that. I think I was meeting with some of the Skybound guys and they mentioned that. But that sounds like a very interesting podcast.
And I think
what was again?
Pure Cinema. It's one of those things that like I feel like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood could very easily feel masturbatory, but because of the amount of specificity, level of detail, and not only affection, but willing to be like Rick and Cliff are not great people, and I don't think the movie. I think people came out of that movie thinking that like, wait, was I supposed to think those are good? They're not good people. They're not bad people.
They're good. They're good friends.
They're good friends, and they have likable qualities, and they're also portrayed by incredibly likable actors. But they're not necessarily good dudes. You know what I mean? And so that willingness to be like, these were people that lived in this time. Like if you lived in that time, like now, Bruce Lee's Bruce Lee. But at the time, he was just the second guy on Green Hornet. You know what I mean? Like that's it. He was just
not at that time, maybe.
Well, in the flashback, in the flashback, he's in Green Hornet. You know what I mean? So he's just the guy on Green Hornet. You know what I mean? Like, and also the fact that like Charles Manson was just that weirdo that came by the house the one day, and Sharon Tate was a person in movies. Did
you know he has like a really big tie to the Beach Boys?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a weird history.
It is.
I mean, besides like his Beatles obsession.
Yeah.
Which. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
Especially Helter Skelter because I like that song. I'm like, fuck this. Fuck you.
It's crazy how many sociopaths were failed artists. Him, Hitler, like.
Yeah.
Doesn't excuse it.
I'll be honest.
Weirdly, doesn't excuse it.
Come to the conclusion.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time thinking about it, and it turns out it doesn't excuse it.
So we're talking about movies that have come out this year. Another movie came out this year.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Do you know my segue?
No.
X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Oh, snap. That did come out this year. It completely left my brain.
Nah. I don't remember the end because...
Yeah.
I don't remember the end of the movie. I remember the end
of the situation that we had.
Yeah, a little fire alarm.
Yeah.
Boop, boop. We should have been evacuated.
Yeah.
Thank you to the staff that didn't do that. But yes, let's go ahead and hop into X-Men because we talked a little bit about comics.
Yeah.
Talked a little bit about movies.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the comics and movies regarding the X-Men.
Yes.
So let's kick it off with DJ. DJ, what's your history with the X-Men? What's the first? Did you read a comic first? Did you play a video game first?
You know what? I think if I would really go with my earliest memory, it actually would probably be picking up a copy of X-Men 1, the Jim Lee. I think it's Chris Claremont, Jim Lee.
Sounds like a cool team.
X-Men 1 I think might to this day be the best-selling comic of all time.
Really?
Something crazy like that. And I bought it in like a grocery store back in the days when comics were, it was Chris Claremont and Jim Lee on art. And I remember I had 2 copies that I ended up, there was a kid in elementary school that was totally gaming me. Like he would trade stuff. I was like, I want that action figure. And then I trade him. And then as I got older, I realized I traded him more valuable action figures for his less valuable ones. And it's still, I'm going to be honest, it still stings a little bit.
Well, I've been in a similar situation.
But I did find out because X-Men #1, that was right at the height of the speculator boom. Because it's like the best selling, it's not worth everybody. Literally, you don't even know about it. You probably, if you just looked in under your parents' bed, there's probably a copy of X-Men 1 by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee there. But anyway, I think I picked that up. And then beyond that, the cartoon, the 90s cartoon. Mm-hmm. Like, of course. You know what I mean?
They had reruns of the cartoon. And I think my first actual introduction where I knew what I was watching, like I was fully aware, was the first movie with Hugh Jackman because I didn't know I didn't know anything about the movie going into. My brother and sister invited me, and I remember the first like cage match scene in Canada. You're like super confused, like this girl sucks the life out of people, and this guy's got claws or something. Yeah. And when it starts
I don't know about you, but as growing up, finding out that the claws weren't the power, the healing was the power, and the claws were like an ancillary thing. Yeah. Like, oh, what?
Yeah, I was super confused. I thought the claws were the power, and the healing was the thing that like made anything work. But it was that comic or that movie felt really cool because it was around a similar time. The first Harry Potter movie came out like after it, I believe, if I'm remembering the timetable correctly. Yeah. That it felt very similar. That idea, especially for like a young kid like me, Sam, Bashur, going out and watching movies where these kids had these larger than life experiences and were able to like go up against like threats, and they had powers and they do all this cool stuff, and everyone looked cool. Everyone's very pretty in the X-Men movies, and in the first movie, it had some very scary elements to it.
And the dude melts.
Yeah, that one as a kid, I was like, well, he's fine. Because later you saw Mystique like with the eye glow, and you're like, I know you're telling me that's not the guy,
Yeah.
but in my brain, I'm gonna justify
He's just
that's
okay.
the guy.
Yeah, he's just okay.
There must be two of them.
Yeah.
That must have been something else. Yeah, no, that was my first interaction with it. And then in Saturday morning, like Fox animated cartoons, they'd play the 90s X-Men cartoon. And as a kid, being totally honest, they'd never play in chronological order, so I'd always watch it out of order, and it always made me angry because you get like this Nightcrawler origin episode that I watched like 90 goddamn times, and I never saw any other episode.
Can I be honest with you? As a kid, when it was airing, it was pretty much the same way. Like it was impossible to like follow because they wouldn't air it in order. You know what I mean? Or as a kid, you don't know TV schedules. Like, how am I supposed to keep up with that? I will, however, say I think actually there was an earlier memory that I forgot, and it was this VHS of a failed X-Men pilot called Pride of the X-Men that I believe came with an action figure I got, and it was a pilot that eventually led to the '90s cartoon, but it was made in 1989. And Dazzler was on. Oh, did you ever play the side-scrolling X-Men beat 'em up arcade game?
Not to brag.
Yeah.
Some people, before recession and money means nothing.
Yeah.
But I had a rich uncle, and one of his weird purchases was that console. So I played it at his house, and
he had the whole cabinet.
Four player.
I'm just so jealous.
Oh yeah, as a kid I would play it constantly.
So jealous.
I was so bad at it. Also, it only had like the first 2 levels there, but like it was still really cool.
But that lineup. So Dazzler was on the team inexplicably. Like
you get Wolverine,
Colossus, but Wolverine had like an Australian accent for some reason.
Why not?
And so I think that was why, because in those cartoons, showing Wolverine's healing power, it's gross. You know what I mean? So that's why the healing power didn't mean anything to me, because I'd never really seen it as a kid. It's not until like, the movies, it's PG-13, you're allowed to see like cuts and blood and all that stuff, but I still probably have that VHS somewhere, and I still have fond memories of it, because it also has the Brotherhood of Mutants with like Juggernaut and was Pyro definitely. Was White Queen in there? She might have been.
Mystique's in it. And it's like
in Pride of the X-Men?
Oh no, sorry, I'm thinking of the side scrolling. There was
it makes sense. Mystique's in there. Yeah.
And you get Magneto because he's got like the ball of electricity.
And then Asteroid M and all that craziness.
All that shit.
Yeah.
Sentinels, you get everything. Yep. Oh, it's a mess. Well, looking at it, you're like, this can't be fun. But then you get into it, and it's still fun. I'm glad that all the barcades in LA, every one of them in like a 2-mile radius has that, and you can go and play.
Oh man, I need to go find one of those arcade cabinets. I'm sure you can get it on like a virtual console or something.
Emulator, for free. You can do it. Maybe that's illegal. I don't know. So don't do it, or do it.
Wink, wink.
You go to jail. I didn't endorse anything, unless it's legal. Cover all my bases. You can't get me. But no, that was my first. But I think the moment where I thought it was cool, really cool, was I watched an episode of X-Men Evolution. I never could find it again, but I liked it as a kid because it really leaned into the Hogwarts aspect. And
I think X-Men Evolution's underrated.
Because it was a good way to pitch all these characters.
Well, and originally when Stan Lee created them, they were teenagers at a school. Like we always hear Xavier University, but you watch those movies, they're all like 40-year-olds. You know what I mean? And so
none of the cool ones are kids.
Well, it makes sense that Wolverine and Storm wouldn't, because that seems weird. You know what I mean? But Cyclops, Jean Grey, Rogue, and the way they laid out stories, I actually think really worked. And the idea that they had to go to like a normal high school, and then like Xavier's school was like where they learned to use the powers. So you still have that all high school drama. I think it's underrated.
It's a solid show. So I watched a little bit of that.
Yeah,
and I remember that sticking with me, kind of like that weird 3D MTV Spider-Man show.
Oh yeah. With Neil Patrick Harris as like Peter Parker.
The only episode I ever saw of that was the Electro one, and it's just burned into my brain. Again, they only made like 6 episodes of that show. Yep. That's the only one that aired whenever I turned on MTV. But no, the X-Men 2. Because you get Nightcrawler. That opening scene, I know the Corridor crew online did like a breakdown of how they could have pulled this off.
Yeah.
And even then, I'm just like, it's multiple stuntman and like editing them out and like using simple ways of like hiding them, or it's like you do like pre-res stuff, and it's like all of it looks time-consuming and tiresome, especially the tail. The tail on Nightcrawler, you're like, that's crazy. Because then as a kid, you're like, I don't want like the scars that he put on his face.
Yeah.
But like he's got like cool ears, and he's got the tail, and he's
can
like
teleport.
He can teleport, and he can hang upside down if he wants to. Like
Yeah.
literally everything about him is cool.
Yeah.
Nightcrawler's fucking rad, and so that was really cool. And also that's when Magneto teamed up with everybody. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and it made mutants whatever you wanted it to be. You know?
Yeah, and also you had Stryker as a bad guy, and he's still one of my favorite of those movie bad guys.
Brian Cox. Too.
Brian Cox is so good in that movie. He's such a good actor.
And you know what was super fucked up was the one Professor X's kid that they make it torture him.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
It's Stryker's kid.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And Professor X couldn't really do anything to help him.
Yeah.
The visual you get in that movie that is perfect is when he immediately starts trying to mess with them, and you see Xavier standing for just a shot, and you can see him catch that it's an illusion.
Yeah.
Going back to it's a really that movie fucking rules.
Yeah. It really holds up. I actually think overall, barring a few stinkers, I think the X-Men franchise is actually overall more hits than misses.
Yeah, but when it does do a miss,
It misses hard.
It really wipes out the rest of the positives.
Yeah.
Like after Dark Phoenix, I'm like, and Apocalypse. I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
Apocalypse was not great.
It kind of made me forget that I really liked First Class and Days of Future Past.
Yes.
And I liked both Deadpools, and I like Logan. That's a lot of
And
really good movies.
Personally, I like the Wolverine. I think the Wolverine
that's
holds
a
up.
lot. That's a good track record. That's 4 duds in a series of. Oops, didn't do the math.
9?
3.
No, it's 9
6,
plus the 2 Deadpool
9,
movies.
10,
Oh, that's right.
11, 12.
12. That's a good number. 10 would have
Correct
been good.
me. We don't
Should
get
have ended
numbers.
on Logan. Logan was just the perfect out. Logan was the perfect button to that franchise.
Or keep doing Deadpool 2. After that was fine.
Oh yeah, well I mean yeah.
But-
I guess it's weird because it is a part of it, but it doesn't quite feel like it's a part of it.
It's not.
Which is now going to work in its favor as they try to integrate that character into the MCU.
Hey, good on Colossus because he got into that franchise and he's gonna outlive. He was so underutilized in all those movies, and now he's flying high.
He's
He's
good to
doing
go.
Great.
He's good to go. But yeah, X2 is good. I actually don't. What was the first X-Men movie I saw in theaters? Was probably X3, unfortunately.
That blows.
Yeah. That's the first X-Men movie I saw in theaters.
I think that's the first one I think I was able to go see it by myself with like friends. We were all disappointed because it sucks because there's cool moments in it, like when Iceman turns all ice and you're like, I don't know how he did that.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. And Beast, the idea of him was cool.
And the
because
casting is good.
And I didn't know who Beast. I had never seen him before, so I didn't know what his thing was. And it's like Nightcrawler, but he can't teleport. And I'm like, that's not the worst thing in the world.
We've probably done this before, and I probably asked you before. Do you have a favorite X-Men?
Nightcrawler.
He's cool. And he's cool. He's
overused, but he's really cool.
His powers are great, and his personality is really interesting. It's cool to have a character that doesn't want to murder everybody.
Yeah, but when he does have a sword, always on board with that.
Yeah.
Super fucking cool.
It's a cool design choice. I think for
Almost
me,
as cool as Will.i.am in
oh my god,
X-Men Origins.
Don't even, man. It's good that because you have that Nightcrawler sequence in 2, and then you have all the Quicksilver sequences in the subsequent movies when he shows up. So you at least get that one sequence that's like really baller.
Yeah.
I think for me growing up, obviously my favorite was Wolverine because I was a kid in the 90s. So of course, 100% he was my favorite. Close runner up, of course it was Gambit. Are you kidding me? It was the 90s. Come on. I think as an adult, there's still a part of me that like, even though there's only 2 runs where I really, really love the character, but I love the character so much in those runs, and that's Phantom X.
Almost got it.
It's so good. In Grant Morrison's run, in Rick Remender's run on X-Force, Jason Aaron wrote a one-shot that he was a part of that was really good. And then subsequently, it's just every writer's been trying to punish me for liking Phantom X.
I think he's gone.
He's Professor X now.
Yeah. He's gone. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what this means.
He's such a cool, weird character.
He's a quick pitch.
So Phantom X is a master thief. He's Weapon 13. His abilities are hard to describe, but he can create illusions. Is like the main. Is
he's
how
a psychic.
Yeah, it's how they kind of manifest himself. I don't remember. Is it his nervous system? Is it ship? Like it's a part of his brain is essentially a ship he can fly around in.
And he's got 3 brains.
Yes. If you wanted to know if it was a Grant Morrison creation or not, that should tip you off right there. And in X-Force, Rick Remender's X-Force run, which is still one of my favorite X-Men runs of all time, he's kind of the wild card. He's kind of the one that like, he's a good guy, but he's willing to do some not great things to keep just keep the ship afloat. You know what I mean? And he's one of those classic like long list of rogues that on the surface 1000% his greatest concern is himself. But
Yeah, sometimes.
you know, sometimes he'll pitch in and take one for the team, and it always feels really rewarding when that happens. You're like, there's a heart in there. Just a classic move to sucker people in. And he looks cool.
And what's that multiverse thing? He's the only one of him.
There's only one Phantom X in the entire multiverse, which is an interesting, and they don't really dive into it. It's just one of those the Captain Britain Brigade, whatever they're called, is because they guard the multiverse.
That's what they do.
That is what they do. Yep.
Captain Britain.
Captain Britain is the guardian of the Alan Moore. You can thank Alan Moore for that.
All right.
Yeah. And so they decide in an arc of that series, they decide they have to get rid of Phantom X because he theoretically shouldn't exist.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool pitch.
Yeah. So
hot damn, that's pretty cool. I mean, overall, that character sounds awesome. By the way, cool X-Men moment. For me, it's a Wolverine moment. But when most recent Savage Avengers #3, did you see?
I picked it up, but I haven't. Oh no, I think 4 is the one I just picked up.
That 4 just came out.
Yeah.
So 3 is the one before that where Wolverine gets knocked out and Conan picks him up and swings him around with his claws out like a weapon.
Yep.
Super on board.
I actually really like the way, I know it's a gimmick and everything because they've got the rights currently. I like the way they're using Conan in that. It's like old school Thor if he was meaner.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that villain's from...
Yeah. Thulsa Doom?
Something like
yeah,
that.
that's
the guy in the green pajamas.
Yeah, it's a classic Conan villain. But yeah, so I think the appeal of it's crazy because when we were coming up with me in the 90s and you with the early X-Men films, like X-Men were untouchable. They were the crown jewel of them, and Spider-Man were the crown jewel of Marvel. And then Kevin Feige had to make hit movies without any of those characters, and then he almost through just sheer force of will, spit a little bit, sorry.
Thank you.
Sheer force of will and maybe magic made the Avengers, which have never, they're premier Marvel team, but like growing up, it was like Spider-Man, X-Men. And you get excited if it's interesting when like, oh, Captain America showed up or, oh, Iron Man showed up in my X-Men or Spider-Man thing. And now they are the everything.
They sell more.
Yeah.
I mean, not that X-Men aren't trash. It's just he made...
To be fair, the X-Men have kind of been trash for a while.
Yeah, they're not great. But I have... Let's focus on some runs that we do like. Because I know you mentioned Rick Remender's Uncanny X-Men, and that's...
X-Force, yeah.
X-Force, sorry. But that's so popular.
It's so good.
And it's weird. Who's the artist on that?
They fluctuate, but Jerome Opeña was the artist on the first run, and he is peerless. He's so talented. And now, of course, he's doing indie stuff because he can.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, but he was the main one for a chunk of it.
And you are also a fan of Grant Morrison's run with the new X-Men.
New X-Men, because it's Grant Morrison.
Mm-hmm.
And so
the costumes are pretty good.
The costumes are pretty cool. Frank Quitely on art is amazing, and it's one of the few times where they like, hey, what if we took this concept and moved it into the now times instead of like 60s times?
I think for me, I've read some Old Man Logan. I know that's more of a Logan stuff, and that's more Marvel Universe, but I'll count it because he is an X-Man. He's a mutant.
You're talking about Mark Miller's original?
Yeah, it's pretty dark, but overall, I do like how they're utilized. Also, I love how they're used in Marvels, and that's Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross, I believe.
I should check that out. Kurt Busiek. Oh, I think we're finally getting the last issue of Batman Creature of the Night. Anyway,
I don't buy it.
Yeah,
I'll wait till I see it.
Yeah, he's really talented.
Because Doomsday got pushed to September 4th, so it's supposed to be this month. Because of course, I know those are different creators, but that final issue, I don't know if we'll ever get it.
No,
we'll get it.
Yeah.
God damn it! I'm gonna be. I started when I was 24.
Yeah. It reminds me of Jonathan Hickman, who we're going to be talking about soon. He did a comic called Shield. That got its last issue like years, and I just picked up last issue. I didn't bother reading the rest of it leading up, and I just read that last issue. I was like, I don't remember any of this shit.
Oops, why'd I do this? No, in Marvel's the use of the X-Men, it's such a cool moment for them because you see people kind of rally against these younger X-Men. You got your Cyclops, your Angel, your Beast, and Jean Grey, and they know that they're mutants. Yeah, there's no secret. They're not like being lauded as something magical like Iron Man or Spider-Man or Captain America or whatever. Like, people hate them, and there's a great line in there where like people are throwing shit at them and they're up against the wall. It's this really cool shot where it kind of looks like the cover of Days of Future Past, where like the whatever but it's more of a spotlight on these characters, and as they're walking away, you can see them getting angry, but Cyclops gets them to calm down, and he says, Don't worry, they're not worth it. Yeah. And it allows this main character, who's a regular person, to have to think about what he meant by that. Like, they're not worth it. This anger that we have, that you have towards them. And why do they think that? And it's the way that it kind of makes this guy spiral and have to think about, oh shit, they're kids.
Yeah.
They have their thing, like they have their mutant ability that you can be scared of. I know it's a parallel for like racial issues, but in this case, this person shoots lasers out of their eyes and it makes buildings melt down. And he does that just by opening his eyes.
Yeah, it's not like a 1-for-1 comparison.
No, it isn't. Yeah. So you kind of lose it there, Marvel. I know you get pats on the back for that, but take it down a little bit. I do like that. That's a really cool take on the X-Men. And also, there's a really harrowing story with just a mutant that is created for just that book, and it's not something that character will never pop up anywhere else. And it's kind of heartbreaking.
Like John Henry and Darwin Cook's New Frontier.
Love that, though. Yeah. Love it. It's amazing. And also,
they should integrate him into the main continuity.
It'd be cool.
They could.
I mean, I don't know if it would really do great stuff for what they tried to tell with that story if he did come back, but they do that with all characters. So, hey, no biggie. But yeah, and also Avengers X-Men. I was super on board with Avengers X-Men and the Axis event, because I read those rather recently, because it kind of just working my way through that. That seemed like a pretty cool time at Marvel when they were writing all these books. Like, you had the new Avengers, you have like Iron Fist and Luke Cage and Spider-Man and Wolverine being a part of the Avengers team. And for the X-Men, it's just all of it seemed really cool. The X-Men are kind of dicks, but like overall, it's cool to see these two teams going up against each other.
I talked about Kevin Feige with the Avengers, but I think the upswing with the Avengers really had to start with Brian Bendis' new Avengers, because that was the first time I remember, like, oh, the Avengers, that's like Captain America and Thor and Iron Man. And then you're like, guess what? Avengers are coming back, but Spider-Man and Wolverine on the team. Oh, sign me up. I'm in.
Also, that first issue's cool as shit.
Yeah. It's so cool. And then you get to introduce the characters, like, for me, it was an introduction to characters like Luke Cage. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know. And now it's like, oh, yeah, this is why he's great.
And if they did that for, like, what if Brian Bendis was going to do a Justice League, but it was kind of pitched like that? And
yeah.
I'd be like, that's...
I don't know.
Super cool.
What would the equivalent be?
Or like Justice League International.
Yeah, what would be the equivalent of... Because
or Detroit.
DC's in a unique position where that Marvel is in now, where their premier team is their premier guys: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. You know what I mean? I don't know who they're in that situation, who their Spider-Man is, or who they're like. It'd be cool to have like a Naomi or a Sideways on the Justice League. Like, that'd be dope. That'd be really rad.
Sideways would be cool.
Yeah.
He is pretty OP. He's pretty strong.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see.
I mean, Cyborg kind of like in a way, or Beast Boy or something like that.
I really want the Cyborg from Doom Patrol on the Justice
Everything.
League. Yeah, I really like that interpretation of that character. But anyway, we're talking about X-Men. A lot of good runs. So recently, because the Avengers stock has been on the rise, X-Men was owned by another. The X-Men film rights were owned by another company. So Marvel, probably more specifically like Perlmutter, kneecapped X-Men and Fantastic Four, desperately tried to replace them with Inhumans.
You know what?
That never clicked.
It didn't, but I really miss that there are no Inhuman books being published right now besides Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
And Moon Girl and Devil
I wonder what they're going to do with Miss Marvel. Are they just going to make her a mutant now when they introduce her in the series? You're just a mutant.
It's kind of like Carol Danvers isn't an Inhuman, even though she's an Inhuman based on all the logic that they've set up.
Yeah.
I know, if anyone wants to correct me, I don't care. But like maybe they'll do something like that. No, she went through the Terrigen Mist, like she's an Inhuman.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Like, it's tough. It's a bummer that it got so muddled and everything, but I do like that the Inhumans led to new characters like Miss Marvel and Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. I think that's so cool that young adult book is so popular. Yeah. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur has been going on forever.
Yeah. We might be seeing our first glimpse of mutant stuff in WandaVision. I just thought about that. Might be the first where, like, actually, it turns out.
Could be cool.
They need to have Quicksilver make a cameo.
Something.
They gotta.
Just like for a second. Like in like a dream sequence.
Yeah, something. But anyway, so the X-Men comics have been in a not great place for a very long time now. And so Marvel picked up the phone and they called in one of their best boys. Jonathan Hickman, who did tremendous work on Fantastic Four, he did tremendous work on Avengers. A lot of his work influenced Endgame and Infinity War. And so they're like, hey man, they're basically giving him carte blanche to do what, near as I can tell, whatever he wants with X-Men. There feels like there's very little editorial interference in this situation at all. And so we're now 3 issues deep in what is essentially a 12-issue arc. It's between House of X and Powers of X, or / Powers of 10. And what are you thinking? We're in issue 3, and we now
issue 3 of the 12.
Of the 12, which is issue 2 of House of X. If you were worried that the X-Men were going to stop being confusing, don't worry about it. We in Powers of X, we got a scene that's like, this is the most important scene in any X-Men comic ever, and we're not told what it means. This issue, we find out what it means, and we find out that Moira McTaggart, classic X-Men supporting character, is actually a mutant.
Is way more important than you thought. She doesn't have an overt mutant power, but we learn that in a light spoiler. We'll go a little bit of spoilers in this. Just kind of also, this is meant to be kind of like, if you've ever been interested in X-Men, this might be kind of a fun place to jump in, because they are going full into the weirdness. Yeah. But it could also, so far I'm intrigued by what they're setting up. We find out that her mutant ability is reincarnation.
Yes.
And it's not in the sense of like, I guess in Buddhism or in other belief systems, that you reincarnate maybe into the basically next when life, you die, like in Avatar: The Last Airbender. As soon as you die, you are born again. So you linearly, your soul is experiencing things in one straight line.
Yeah.
For her point of view, it loops back to when she was born. She has the same parents. Yeah. And she has all the memories from the previous life. So she's living in a time loop over and over again, and she can die at different times if that happens.
Yeah.
But in this case, she's choosing to live her life in different ways. She meets Charles. She sees the X-Men exist, and we're seeing how each of her lives take different routes and her point of view on mutants and herself and her role in the world and what it means to be a mutant and a human in this big old arms race. Every single outcome so far has been scary bad, like super scary bad. And so what I'm getting, though, is that she has now shown all of her lives to Xavier.
Yes.
In this timeline.
Yes. Which I will say, like, because at the back of the issue, they give the different timelines, which I like, the little like back matter and all that stuff. I like the way it's designed. Although apparently Jonathan Hickman has been plagued with like spelling issues with this new X language he's created.
A little bit.
But I will say, when you look at all the lives, and then you look at, now she's on life 10. I think my favorite issue is she has an interaction with Destiny, which is an underused character, and this is the perfect way to use her because it's a character that can see the future. Actually, speaking of Nightcrawler, originally her and Mystique were supposed to be Nightcrawler's biological parents, because Mystique can change, so she was going to impregnate Destiny. And then Marvel was like, no, this is still the 60s or 70s. We're not going to let that fly.
So who's the dad?
It's Azazel or something. It's like a red version of Nightcrawler. It's a demon or something. He's in the movies. But it's weird.
Red version looks cool.
The red version does look cool, but I do, especially with a scene like this, it's like, let those be. That's cool. Like, that's a cool. And originally, Colossus was supposed to be gay. And that was another editorial. Was like, And then in Ultimate Comics, he is gay.
Shout out.
And now it doesn't exist. But I like that interaction. This is my favorite of the 3 issues we've got so far, because it's the most grounded in character, because we're following Moira, so it feels more vital. It feels less like a thought experiment and more like we're telling a story about this person, and it's interesting. I will say, though, when you look at the timelines and you see like when she marries Apocalypse and when she does these things, and now this one is the current continuity, it's like, what? She has no plan on this timeline. What are you talking about?
I mean, so
She's
far,
just kind of dicking around.
They've now founded their own homeland, and they have their own language, and all the mutants have united. And even if they're bad or good, it's like, you have a safe place here.
Yeah.
But in the future, we see that this really never goes well. So
it does. At the end, 1,000 years from now, it looks like mutants are in charge, and now they've humans as slaves. So, or museum exhibits.
There you go. Yeah, it's little pickles.
Yeah.
It's honestly, like, just you brought this up. It's like, just stop looking at the future, guys. Like, you
at a certain point, you just got to live your lives.
I think all the pessimists are the ones who get the clairvoyant powers, because it's ridiculous.
I was a little bummed because one of her timelines looked like a Days of Future Past, and a part of me thought it would have been cool if like each one of her like one is Age of Apocalypse, one is like she marries Apocalypse, but it's not the Age of Apocalypse timeline. It's like, that would have kind of been cool, right? If like all our timelines were the different X-Men timelines.
One of them was like clear event comics, like this all happened.
Yeah.
Like when they had the Phoenix Force, like X-Men had the Phoenix Force.
Oh yeah.
That clearly happened, but that was
like
in
timeline.
5 or
was
whatever.
that 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean this didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because that was when she was just witnessing it.
Yeah.
So, isn't she David Haller's mama?
I don't believe so.
Not in the Legion TV show, but
Uh-oh.
I think in the comics that is true. But also, we're gonna check real quick.
We're gonna confirm.
Here you go.
Oh my gosh, what?
Legion character, maybe, but I could be wrong about that. But and based on all the other timelines, it looks like maybe that's not true. But I vaguely remember that. Legion.
Oh wow, man, we're really dragging the episode down with me trying to figure this one out. Wait, we're getting there. What did you think about this issue
Which issue?
with Moira?
I think it was really interesting. I think you bring up a great point that it finally
Gabrielle Haller is the mama.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like that they had a point of view. That
Yeah.
was nice. It was super refreshing because it's super hard to. And also, everyone's acting like a fucking creep, and you can't figure out what the hell's happening. That doesn't fix it, but you know that like Moira, fuck man, she's been through some shit, and this is not her fault, and she really can't fix it.
Yeah.
There's not really a clear way for her to stop doing this, and for her to be passive in all those lives is also maybe selfish of us. But at the same time, at one point she was just a murderer.
Yeah.
In two different timelines, she was just a straight up murderer.
I like it too because it's as people try to like reinvent stuff, this is a really interesting way of like I think typically like a more traditional comic would be like, Moira got hit by the Phoenix Force, but for some reason now she's the most powerful Phoenix of the Phoenix Forces. This is if you want to say this character is not who you thought they were, and also is maybe the most important character in the X-Men line, this is a really unique and interesting way of doing it. Mm-hmm. And it's also I think the part of the appeal of the X-Men is cool powers, and this is a unique, interesting power, and also like a lot of X-Men powers, kind of a fucking nightmare.
Because there's no way. How do you plan for? Even Destiny kind of plans for it, but even then, you're like,
yeah,
it's a stretch if you figured out where Moira is.
So it'll be interesting to see how because this is our prime timeline. So theoretically, we shouldn't get another Moira situation. You know what I mean? Because then that would be a branch. Because it's not part of the main. Unless that's your gateway to like relaunching the Marvel comic universe is through Moira, which I actually, now that I say it, I'd be totally down for.
Kind of cool.
Yeah.
Efrain in the chat says, my mutant ability would be to embody video game character superpowers like Mario Spitfires. That's pretty cool. I did ask the chat. I asked the Discord.
Yes.
Favorite X-Men and why, and what powers would you want? What's a power that you haven't seen yet in the comics or in the movies that it would be cool to see live? Everything they've done with Legion so far has been a really cool way to manifest all of his whole messed up situation.
Yeah.
But
also
Landstander,
unique uses of the whole stuff that like echoes stuff that you know about. Like Sid can't touch people like Rogue, but what that means for her is different than what it means for Rogue.
Landstander says first response is Nightcrawler as my favorite. Nightcrawler's my best boy. Says Echo Spider. Joelville Storm as the OG avatar of the X-Men. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's Storm.
They've made her Omega level now, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
and also you're controlling the whole global weather. Everyone's like, maybe you make it smaller with like, just like a 25-mile radius. Like that's
insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Nightcrawler's powers is getting a lot of love. Brenda, I always liked Rogue, but it's like 99% because Anna Paquin. I like Kitty because she has a dragon. Storm is who I want to be when I grow up. Kitty always has like the coolest power to me. I think phasing through stuff. If I had to like pick, teleportation is top of the pack, but he goes like a hell dimension before he pops out somewhere else. Also, Brimstone smells like farts, so there's no way you don't constantly smell like farts.
Yeah.
No one's ever talked about that, huh?
Yeah. We haven't dived into that, huh?
But phasing through that ability is super fucking cool.
Yeah.
Always a big fan of that. No one can hit you if you time it right.
Yeah.
Unless it's instinctual. Do you have to don't you have to be see the place you have to go there for? Oops, I don't know what the kind of question was being written there. I was reading it as I was looking at it for the first time.
Danny M mentions Mohawk Storm, which I'm a big fan of Storm with the Mohawk as well.
Jean Grey's powers would be good. Can read minds, move things with your mind, which also lets you fly.
I think moving things with the mind, cool. Being able to read people's minds,
you're gonna hate it.
no, thank you.
And
you're
also,
gonna hate it, and also it's
no one's gonna like you.
Yeah.
And you can't. It's kind of a tricky position where you have to tell people you can do that.
Yeah.
Because if you don't and people find out, you're a fucking creep. But also, it's not your fault. It's like Daredevil. You should tell people that you can constantly hear them and smell them.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
Yuck. You can taste in the air if they're having oh, you have an infection. Yuck,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Don't. Ew.
Calm down.
Close your mouth.
Yeah.
Or close your eyes. Wait, I'm sorry. You can't see. But I really think we need to see some new mutant powers on screen. I always liked Cypher's ability, although it's not very cinematic when Cypher combines with Warlock. They make one of my favorite pairings. Danny as a Valkyrie is also very cool. Danny as a Valkyrie. Who's Danny?
Danny Moonstone? Moondust?
Kidney Stone?
The kidney stone? You
Something
get
like
it. Yeah.
Banshees, what about having Banshee's powers, but then you can have the power of Scream Flight. No thanks.
Yeah.
Blow out all the windows you go by so that you can fly. Isn't this cool? No, it's not cool.
It's annoying.
Also, you can't fly that high because you need to be able to push off of something.
Yep.
It's kind of flight.
Yeah, I was fine when they got rid of him after First Class.
I didn't mind the actor they got.
No, he's great. He's been in a ton of great stuff. He's in Get Out. He was in.
Bummed they showed that he died off screen.
Yes.
They're like, uh-oh, isn't everyone sad? Banshee's dead.
Oh no, we all lost Banshee.
And the girl who has dragonfly wings.
Yeah.
Oh
no, she died.
She spits little fireballs.
We're getting some love for Multiple Man, which is he's had some interesting runs. I think Peter David did the X Factor run that kind of put him on the map.
Darwin, who his death in First Class was dumb as shit. It was super. Literally everyone was mad about that because it's he doesn't get a cool training montage. He just gets one moment where it's if I dunk my head underwater, I can grow gills, or if I pick up a rock, I can become solid. You're wow, shit, you got the fucking coolest ability ever. And they're like, yeah, we can't have that on screen.
Yeah, and also he was the one black character.
Boom.
Yeah. Kill him.
There it
First
goes.
one that goes.
But he had such a cool ability.
Yep.
By the way, keeping Kevin Bacon a secret for that movie was great marketing.
Yep.
Super cool. It was a fun surprise. Wait, what the fuck? Why is Kevin Bacon here?
Yeah, wait, what's he doing?
Yes, hello, Rogue. Thank you very much. I want her power. I don't care if it alienates me. You can all get hacked. Oh, and a power I've never seen would be the power to manipulate people's feelings, both individual and mass amounts of people. Give me that, and let me introduce you all to your new world leader. But don't worry, like all villains, I'd be doing it for what I think is good.
Uh-huh.
I mean, to be fair, that's like an empath.
Yeah.
And we did Mantis, the chick with the antennas, can do that, which is nice that they kind of tone down her abilities, like psychic, sometimes reads minds, sometimes the other stuff. It's no, she's an empath, which is still a really cool
only really
power.
works when she touches you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I think empath is a cool underrated power.
Yeah.
If you could make, if you're in a bad mood, I can make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a fucking piece of shit, it's oh, here's a panic attack.
Enjoy that. Why don't you?
It's what, you're gonna sue me? I gave you a panic attack. It's I didn't what? It's gonna cause trauma? No, you're fine. You're good to go. Multiple Man is interesting, but it always gets in those stories where it's wait, am I real or is the other one real? It's I don't need that kind of shit.
So what would you want?
If I wasn't supposed to pick. I'd go with that sounds like a test audio sound. Phasing through stuff. Phasing through
cool
stuff. And I want to be able to make other things phase too.
It would be tempting to say healing factor just because a lot less stress in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I will also say this, by the way. I think something cool that they could do in the MCU with Wolverine is have his healing factor, because one of my favorite versions of Wolverine is Patch, where he has the eye. So it's if Wolverine loses his eye, he'll grow it back a couple weeks to a month. Mm-hmm. And it's still a healing factor because it grows back. You know what I mean? So maybe make it not as instantaneous. So it's he still has body armor because one, it hurts, and two, it still has to grow back.
Deadpool, it hurts.
Yeah, Deadpool,
instantaneous.
And also it's funny.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's keep Deadpool that because I think traditionally in the comics, Deadpool's healing factor is more robust than Wolverine's. It's the one thing he has, and I think they've officially made him Weapon 9 because it's he's one of the fuck ups before they got it right with Wolverine, which I don't know if that timing works out, but sure.
Not really, but it is a fun idea.
Yeah.
And we already have his origin movie, which explains that's not what it is.
Yeah, exactly. The one that audiences know, it's almost not associated with Weapon X at all.
Or even mutants.
Really? Not really.
They say mutants, but you're if you said like it was super soldier serum, you're like, oh, okay, and
Yeah,
then
sure,
everyone would
yeah.
be like, that made the Hulk, so why wouldn't it make Deadpool? Like,
And it turns you whatever you have on the inside. So maybe he looks gross on the inside. Who's to say? I like Deadpool 2 a lot. Healing factor, but I've also thought Gambit's powers were cool. Like they're not cool in any practical the way I live my life sense. But if I were an X-Men and I were fighting people, it'd be cool.
as a normal person, it blows.
Yeah,
'cause you
normal
just-
person.
Uh-oh, I touched the micro. Everyone get out of here.
Yeah, everyone needs that.
I can't turn it off.
I can't undo it. Yeah.
It's awful. That's an awful superpower. I mean, cool in X-Men
Yeah,
terms,
if you're like,
but
yeah.
if you were a regular guy that you got that, you'd immediately be on a watch list.
Yeah, basically, in My Hero Academia, it's basically X-Men. Like they're mutants. People with quirks are mutants.
80% of the population.
Insane.
Super cool. Gang, you should be watching. Aw, that's anime we watch. That's a show we have on Patreon. Little clips go up on youtube.com/onlystupid answers. I totally zoned out because I saw Caitlin Conway in the chat said phasing through stuff. Sam wants to be the Flash so bad. Yes, but I didn't say Quicksilver's powers because I changed my mind. But I still want an aspect of the Flash's powers. Thank you. It'd be so cool.
It'd be cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't use doors. And if I stop, it's like that's a good joke in Civil War when Vision walks through the wall.
Yeah.
And he's like, use the door. He's like, but it was open already.
yeah. Good enough.
Still creepy.
Yeah.
I don't want to be creepy, but I don't want to use doors anymore.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's always
You have to get a little bit of floating too, because otherwise you just float through the earth. You know, so Kitty's just kind of always floating around when she phases through
You got to
stuff.
time it right. You haven't gotten to a certain character on My Hero Academia, which is I'll tell you this: a character has phasing, and when they explain all the bad stuff that can come with it, and how concentrated he has to be at all times to make it work, it's pretty crazy.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
And also, his eyes look different from regular people's for no discernible reason.
Wouldn't mind having that Bird Boy's Dark Shadow ability from My Hero.
Yeah. Why? Just because it looked cool?
It looked cool.
Okay, that's
And
fine.
he looks cool.
He does look cool.
Yeah.
You want the bird head?
You know,
He doesn't have teeth. How do you eat?
Good question.
I mean, birds eat
But then
meat,
he has a boy body.
He does.
At least there's a cop that has a cat head, but he also has like a fur.
A dog head. Dog head. Or is there a cat?
There is a dog head. There's a like chief of police has a dog head, but then there's just this random cop that's like a cat. I love it. It makes me happy.
Hey, you know what? That sounds like an X-Men comic to me.
Yep.
They've been a big inspiration. It'd be cool to see them with Jonathan Hickman and also with the MCU, just kind of like getting their foot in back. Inhumans didn't work out. Don't stray away. If you want to try Inhumans again, go for it. The Saladin Ahmed and Christian, blanking on the artist name. Apologies.
Yeah.
The Black Bolt series, they got one in Eisner. I was nominated at the very least. It's a very, very good series. So I miss my Inhumans. Try bringing them back lightly. You know, throw Medusa on the Avengers. That's cool.
I think we got Lockjaw on the Guardians, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Death of the Inhumans, they ran off and did their own thing. But, you know, they'll come back soon. They'll get their own rebirth. Jonathan Hickman, work on them, please.
Yeah.
Please.
That'd actually be a good fit. That'd be a good fit.
But, gang, hope you enjoyed. Let us know your favorite X-Men on our Discord. Go to patreon.com/onlystupidanswers for more content. Follow us at Sam Basher at DJ Talks Trash. And until next time, be good to each other, my dudes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Follow Sam Basher at DJ Talks Trash.
At DJ Talks Trash.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. My name's easy. It's Sam Basher, Sam Basher.
Yeah.
Everywhere that you go.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.